When you see the name of the person who directed Home Alone 3, Never Been Kissed, Big Mama's House, the first Scooby-Doo, Yours, Mine, and Ours, Beverly Hills Chihuahua, 2 Smurfs movies, and Snow Dogs, I forgot what point I was going to make.
I haven't seen all of those, but out of the ones I have seen, I can safely say this is his best film.
What? I mean, yeah, I know he was on the first one too, but what?
While I acknowledge this movie isn't the best thing in the world, James Gunn writing the screenplay here deserves a send-off because his style and humor is really fun for the Scooby-Doo cast, even if I can understand others not liking it.
We have you tattooed on our chest!
The guy on the left is extremely excited about his Angela from The Office tattoo.
Arbitrary TV reference.
Son, I'm Frankenstein's monster.
Pointing things out on the screen.
Mystery Inc. is proud to donate the costumes of criminals we've unmasked in the past.
But would Mystery Inc. own said costumes? Wouldn't those go into police custody and then eventually be part of the criminal's estate proceedings, or really anything other than into the hands of Mystery Inc.?
Wouldn't they have just requested the costumes back and then donated them? Like, did you not think about that option?
Come on, you chickens! Grab those ropes!
Why can't you grab those ropes?
This is something the movie itself acknowledges was a mistake.
It's all my fault. I'm the one who told Shaggy and Scooby to get the rope.
It's just a costume! It's just a costume!
Yeah, but you realize this can't be just a costume at this point, right? Which is really all this team is trained to deal with. So they should be calling the real Ghostbusters at this point, and give all 3 of us that have been writing fan fiction about that team up what we want.
Okay, a Ghostbusters and Scooby-Doo crossover does sound really cool, I'll grant you that. But Shaggy is just trying to calm himself down so he can do the job of trapping this pterodactyl. He's lying to himself, basically.
We tied it! Let go!
All 3 smarter people in the group believe this.
Again, the movie itself knows this was something that should have been handled better. This is meant to start Shaggy and Scooby's story arc of them thinking they are screw-ups and then try to not be that.
No, Velma, it's my fault. I should have checked that they were tied before I let go.
It's my fault, too. We all know how Shaggy and Scooby can be. But it's all right. We just need to stay strong, in control, and work fast.
Okay, Shaggy grabs a pan to block the fire from burning him, but there were no pans to grab before they were dragged onto this table. Scooby grabbed a bowl, which makes sense because they were dragged through a salad bar, but the pan is a lot.
They both grabbed one right before they got to the fire. I feel like I'm stating the obvious here.
And this time, you'll be the ones unmasked. As the buffoons you truly are.
Does Mystery Inc.'s reputation really depend on this one mystery?
Yes.
Sure, Velma, just grab the smoking, glowing piece of evidence. I'm sure tampering with this isn't a big deal, and certainly not your safety. Those pale in comparison to proving how observant you are.
She's literally a detective, though. It's kind of her job.
He stole 2 costumes. The Black Knight Ghost and the 10,000-volt Ghost. Why?
I don't know, Fred. It's like he knew that those were 2 of the only ghosts you had mentioned to the audience.
Yes, those 2 were mentioned, but Fred also mentioned the Skeleton Men, Tar Monster, and Velma introduced Chickenstein. Plus, since we also see Shaggy and Scooby being freaked out by the pterodactyl and Velma's conversation with Patrick, we can assume the rest were done off-screen. And it makes sense to introduce the audience to the 2 costumes that were stolen so they don't ask too much questions.
We always face the press after we've unmasked the creeps. We looked ridiculous back there.
I mean, yeah, you look pretty ridiculous, but I don't see why anyone would make a big deal out of it. The situation was pretty ridiculous. Do people really expect you to look like superheroes when a pterodactyl is flying around a museum?
Yeah, they did look ridiculous. They tried to contain the pterodactyl by trapping it behind curtains, and then they screwed it up by trusting Shaggy and Scooby.
Fred Jones, leader of Mystery Incorporated, had this to say.
Little old Coolsville can solve its problems without us.
My guess is that no discerning viewers watch this news show, because even out of context, they'd see all the people in the background cheering Mystery Inc. Even the news and the Running Man wouldn't be this shameless.
The viewers could interpret that as people hating on Mystery Inc. after they failed to stop Jacobo.
Also, did the news flip the footage? Fred was looking to his left when he said this before, but now he's looking to his right.
Hey, I've seen YouTube videos that flip footage for seemingly no reason. And besides, does this really matter all that much?
From this day forward, we will no longer be our goofy selves.
Wait, are you saying you're aware that you're goofy? You've been doing this on purpose?
No, the movie is saying that they just now realized this after failing last night. Like, seriously, how did you watch this movie and come to that conclusion?
Scooby! Those so don't go with that sweater.
Really?
Well, I suppose it's possible Daphne walked over here and sat down in the time it took Scooby to say those 2 words. Everything about her posture and demeanor suggests otherwise. I mean, how do you go from this to that in 2 seconds?
Again, I feel like I'm stating the obvious here, but there's probably some time passage here that we didn't see, and the scene cut so it can continue on with the story.
Alas, what are these strange markings?
Words.
Sigh.
Sinning this joke.
Is there one kids movie out there that doesn't have a fart joke of some kind? Is there a rule written in the books for every studio that if there's no fart noise or joke in your kid's film, we're not buying it?
That was not a fart joke. The monster just spit on him. They just played the wrong sound effect.
You think Jacobo's behind this?
Impossible. 3 years ago, he attempted a prison escape.
So long, sucker!
His body was lost at sea.
Oh, his body was never found, so therefore he couldn't possibly still be alive.
I mean, let's be honest. Falling into the sea should be deadly. It's actually ridiculous that he does survive this.
Scooby-Doo, what's your conclusion?
Bunny.
Guys, I'm gonna add 100 sins for all the forcible sighing this movie makes me do.
And you had to do that over this joke? A joke I personally found funny?
The gang survives this.
So wait, 3 sins ago you thought Jacobo surviving falling into the sea was believable, but this is something you think is fatal? Them just falling into a ball and rolling?
At 7 p.m., the owner will be home to set you free.
Then why bother rigging the doorbell to trap people in the basement, especially since they can't get into the house in the first place?
Probably so he could tell them to never come back again, or he'd have bigger consequences.
Since there's music playing here that I can't play, let me explain that Shaggy is now singing Do the Clue Dance, Do the Clue Dance, and the sin is for somehow making Shaggy 10 times dumber and 100 times more annoying than he is in the original series.
I really don't want to write so many. That's just your opinion, Sins. So instead, since you padded the sin count earlier, I'll do the same.
Daphne the Black Knight Slayer.
The second time where you reference Buffy the Vampire Slayer over Daphne. Running out of joke material, eh? Oh, yeah, and sorry that I made the mistake of saying movie last time.
Unobtainium alert! Unobtainium alert!
Not comparable though, since unobtainium is a real word.
I'm not hot.
Did this movie just turn into She's All That? Because a woman wearing glasses who is super hot but doesn't think she is because of the glasses, mixed with a Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard appearance, automatically turns a movie into She's All That.
And this sin automatically turns into an arbitrary movie reference.
Shaggy and Scooby escaped this.
Because they were able to jump into a garbage chute Star Wars style.
Mystery Inc. is currently investigating the 2 stolen costumes.
Does Coolsville have any other detectives? When the museum was robbed the first time, did the Coolsville police even bother starting an investigation? Or was it implied Mystery Inc. would be on the case?
I mean, yeah? These guys have solved many mysteries, so they're the detectives of Coolsville.
Oh no, this criminology museum is nothing without the costumes from some low-rent criminals sent to jail by teen detectives. How will Patrick ever recover?
And those detectives are celebrities in this world. You forgot that part.
This might be the best visual gag in the movie, which would normally require a sin off. The only problem being, this might be the best visual gag in the movie.
Sinning something you like.
Velma's the smart one. Fred's the leader. All you are is a pretty little face.
Alicia Silverstone is clueless that Daphne from this Scooby-Doo doesn't even resemble the TV series Daphne. She carried a grudge with a fingerprint lock, and she had cruel intentions with a sword and an axe earlier in the movie. Any Harvard man knows you can't change characters from simply irresistible to small soldiers and then act like they're still a blast from the past. That's simply some excess baggage you just can't crush. I'm crying, it's so crazy.
You know this reporter is actually Jacobo in disguise, right? He's discouraging Daphne, which is part of his plan of making Mr. Inc. look like fools.
Why are you doing this?
Because it's my job to unmask those who pretend to be who they're not.
I should have just canned the charade and named her character I'm the Villain.
Oh, of course you know that, and didn't realize your mistake with the previous sin.
Patrick. Shaggy. Scooby.
How the did Patrick get here from the museum so fast? He was just there a minute ago.
Jeremy assumed that these 2 scenes happened right next to each other for some reason. I feel like that should tell you all you need to know about this guy's ability to analyze movies.
You don't need stuff that glows.
This scene contains nothing that glows.
I'm a race made in revel.
So this stuff can not only make monsters, but it can turn people into animated beings? Forget taking over Coolsville. Sell this to the highest bidder and purchase Coolsville, or do whatever the you want with your billions.
Hush now, buffoon. This is a highly combustible synthesis.
Thank God Scooby took the potion that made him intelligent so he could fix this. But that convenient convenience also prevents us from having to watch any more of this nonsensical transformation sequence, but I still had to watch it, so... Also, why would a potion that makes an animal smarter also give it gray hair and glasses? Is it a cliche potion? How did it even create glasses? How does Shaggy still have sleeves if he didn't have them when he became instantly ripped? If anything, they should have been Incredible Hulked off his body, and those pants should now be shorts.
This is for you, Buff Shaggy. So I don't know if you realize this, but the fact that Scooby turned into the Tasmanian Devil shows that these potions are borderline magic. That explains why Scooby has glasses and how Shaggy's sleeves regrow. And yes, implying that this scene isn't funny is definitely worth a sin.
Minor 49er.
Captain Cutler.
Wrong! Jay Cutler was a bronco, a bear, allegedly a dolphin, and spent some time as a cavalieri, but never a 49er.
This joke, coming from the guy who's been criticizing this movie for bad jokes.
Based on how these movies present Shaggy and Scooby, I'm starting to question the believability of them still being alive.
I want you to remember this sin for later, okay?
It's a good movie and all, and it has some amazing fight sequences and stunt work, but seriously, The Matrix for making me have to watch horrible carbon copies of it for years to come.
This scene reminded you of The Matrix? If anything, this does Bullet Time, but differently.
Man, Sony and Marvel are going to be pissed when they find out Warner Brothers stole Venom and Electro and combined them into one thing.
This sin doesn't work though, since the 10,000 Volt Ghost debuted in a Scooby-Doo episode from 1976, and Venom's first appearance was in 1984.
Also, the biggest sin in this movie is that it involves actual monsters being created. Sure, there is a human monster behind it all, but despite all the spooky aesthetic, the biggest appeal for Scooby-Doo has always been the mystery solving, right? On occasion, in a couple of the incarnations, they have thrown in real ghosts and goblins, but those were always the least appealing. No matter how many past villains and Easter eggs they throw at us, this film just doesn't feel very Scooby-Doo.
You said something similar like this in the last movie, and I didn't say anything then because there was legit magic in that movie. But here, these monsters were created with a machine, and there's still one guy behind it all with a mask on.
Let's rip it, Scoob!
With a trash can lid on that terrain? Yeah, Shaggy is dumb, but what's worse is he's right.
Well, this is based off of a cartoon, and still has some of that same cartoon logic.
Are you guys okay?
Sure, as long as you define okay as in massive agony.
We should get back to headquarters.
Or a hospital?
Which would be a terrible idea, since Jacobo is sending his monsters to find Mystery Inc. A hospital isn't exactly a private place.
I had no clue 2016 Ghostbusters ripped off Scooby-Doo Monsters Unleashed, but here we are.
But wouldn't that be a sin for Ghostbusters 2016?
Turn in, Mystery Inc. Your reward will let you live.
That's diabolical and all, but even if someone were inclined to turn in Mystery Inc., how would they? That's 4 people on a large dog, and many of these people driving around clearly didn't bring their handcuffs or portable prisons. Would there really be this many people upset about museum costumes being stolen and whether Mystery Inc. is to blame?
So you played the first sin that showed Jacobo telling everyone to turn in Mystery Inc. and showing his power by having his monsters attack? And then the next sin, ask why everyone is upset?
Freddy, are you okay? Do you want to talk?
Talking's for wimps.
And for better screenplays.
Irony.
This is the most our faultiest screw-up ever, Scoob.
Actually, it's not, like, at all. There is literally zero they or any of Mystery Inc. have done that has made this situation any worse.
And here's why I asked you to remember that sin. CinemaSins literally showed the scene where Shaggy and Scooby mess with the machine, creating monsters that are currently attacking Coolsville. And yet in this sin, they're saying that Mystery Inc. is not to blame for this mess. This legitimately might be one of the worst mistakes I have ever seen in a YouTube video.
Are we really flashing back to when the Scooby-Doo gang played in the park? This movie feels like it could have been 35 minutes long.
Which gives them memories of their past and also foreshadows frisbee throwing for the climax.
I'll tell you one thing for sure, Scoob. They don't need our help to figure it out.
They never do, so how is this new information?
It's not. It's just further cementing how useless they feel.
This is tied for the most terrifying day of my life!
Tied with what?
Every other freaking day of my life!
This movie has many, many issues, but Matthew Lillard is giving it his all here, and it's borderline infectious. Just because this movie doesn't deserve a sin-off doesn't mean Matthew Lillard can't have one removed, or at least that's what I'm going to go with so I can live with myself after doing this.
I want to remove a sin. I really do. but I haven't forgotten that you said in the first Scooby-Doo video that Matthew Lillard being in that movie was a sin in and of itself. So I'm still confused on whether you appreciate him being in these movies or not.
Considering all the ridiculous stuff that Scooby can do in these movies, it would seem less sinful if he could drive.
You're saying this as if Scooby doesn't drive here, but he literally does, and you didn't show that scene.
Also, is the horse a monster? Or when the Black Knight ghost was created by the machine, did the horse appear as well? Randomonium is aptly named because the results are seriously random.
Judging by the red eyes, yeah, it was created by the machine. The real sin is there wasn't a costume for it at the museum, so I don't know where it came from.
You and Scooby get this to the Monster Hive.
Us?
I'm with you, Shags. Wouldn't it make more sense for the two of you to distract the skeletons? And then Velma, who knows what the she is doing, could get the control panel back and hooked up?
Velma says in this scene that both Shaggy and Scooby are faster than her. They need to get to the machine as quickly as possible since there are monsters all over the city. And she also explains how to use the control panel.
We're grown-ups.
I mean, we tried to be heroes like you guys, but we're not, okay? We're just not.
I always wanted to be like you guys.
That's the ticket, Velma. Shaggy is too stupid to realize that you're lying.
She's not though, as she goes on to talk about how silly and free they are, which sounds fun to her.
I feel like for the remainder of this movie, I could just keep saying, this works. So I'm just going to go ahead and tack on 20 sins for the last 20 minutes of what I'm sure will be a lot of ridiculous
Based off of a cartoon. Just saying it slowly so you understand.
My glasses. I've got to consider contact lenses.
Why are you so blind now when earlier the new sexy you came down the stairs without glasses?
Probably because she knows her own home.
And all the facts say that you're the evil masked figure.
What does your heart say?
Wouldn't the better reply be, I'm not the evil masked figure?
That wouldn't work, dude. Like, that's exactly what the real evil masked figure would say.
Cannibalism.
Isn't cannibalism only applicable if it's your own species?
Are you serious? Are you saying that flashback with the frisbee earlier was foreshadowing? I also partially blame this scene for inspiring Now You See Me too.
Of course you're aware that the flashback was foreshadowing. And I still don't get why this is a sin.
It's not the best thing to remind somebody of Batman and Robin when you make a movie, but this movie is so terrible it doesn't even matter. Alicia Silverstone is in both, and that's not a criticism, just a statement of fact.
What about this scene made you think of Batman and Robin? There isn't even any ice in this scene.
When I realized she was the evil masked figure, he quickly changed into her costume.
Weird. You didn't even make that accusation until he was long gone. So how would he know he needed to cover for her? Also, if he got dressed in the van, how did he run out into the media circus outside, through the museum, and all the way to the goddamn roof without one person seeing him? Even if he didn't put the mask on, people would be wondering why you're dressed that way, and why you're holding a giant mask that looks like the evil masked figure's face.
Yeah, this is a legit sin. Especially weird that he got up there so freaking fast. It's really stupid. I swear, it's not intentional that this is the third video in a row that ends on a sin removal.
Oh, man. Another creepy crib. How come we can't ever investigate like a Burger King or something?
Reggie.
All right. Then again, creepy is my middle name. Scooby!